Hello and welcome to another edition of Luminar Coffee Break. I'm your host, Vanelli. Now, our topic today is how to create a macro shot using the crop tool. Now, I'm going to show you this real quick example. Hello, Marianne. All right, so here's the original. Well, this was going to look like. This was it's going to look like after or before we start adding our looks to it. This will look like after we're done. However, this was the original image. Let's get to it. And here it is. So that's the original image. Now, all I did was come through with the crop tool and cropped it in tight. And what that did was it made it look like a macro shot. Now, keep in mind, you can do macro photography with any lens. The difference is it's not called macro photography. It'd be called close-up photography. This was shot with a 70 to 200 millimeter lens. So that's what it was shot with. Look up at the info. And I have to be honest with you. Here it is. When I took this shot, I have no idea what the heck. When I went back and looked at this, I had no idea why I took it. Let's see. This was shot in 2009. Wow. So 11 years ago. And I remember we were in a food court at Photoshop World when I did this. I was with my buddy Ross Bouchon. And it was Boston. I remember that. So I remember something moved me. Something motivated me to want to take this shot. And then years I just left it. And now when I went back and I looked and I thought, oh wow. Now I know why I did it. I wanted a macro shot. With the 70 to 200 millimeter lens, the problem is your distance. I have to be at least 6 feet away, the minimal focus distance. So if you have a lens and you're trying to photograph something and it just won't get the focus, back up a little bit and then refocus. And typically that's the issue, is you need to have the minimum focus distance of that lens. With macro lenses, you can get right on top of something to where it's like a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you take a photograph of a quarter, it'll actually be the size of the quarter when you go to print it. With a telephoto lens, that's called close-up photography. So now that we have that set, and I do want to point out to you, we will crop. What does that mean? We're going to destroy pixels. The quality is not going to be pristine. That's okay, because I'm only going to print this maybe an 8x10 if I use other software to enlarge it, maybe a 16x20. We have more than enough pixels to print that, and I'll show you how we're going to get that. Whew. Boom. So we got all that out of the way. Now, before we begin, let's take a moment and thank our partner, Fujifilm, for helping make these episodes possible. Excuse me. Fuji reminds us, stay safe, stay creative, and stay at home. All right, and we're back. We have a lot of people coming visiting us from Minnesota. Hello, Brian. Good to have you back. Tommy from Connecticut. Russell from Orlando. And Russell, guess what? Notice, Russell? So far, the cursor's looking pretty good. This is pretty cool. The makers of Ecamm, I reached out to them, and thank God we know them well. And I told him the issue. He quickly fixed it and sent me a patch update for the software. So thumbs up to Ecamm. Thank you so much. He's the owner and also the founder and also the developer. So, all right, guys, excuse for the cough. Let me get back to here. All right, so let's begin. Yes, we're going to end up cropping the image. So, like we said, image quality is going to suffer a little. I'm going to click on the canvas tools and select crop. Since I said I do want to try for like a 4:5 ratio, which will equate to an 8:10, I'm going to crop it in here. And let's try to get it aesthetically pleasing. Good. That's it. And let's check this out. All right, that looks good. This is kind of bothering me just a little bit. We could take care of it, but that's not that big of a deal. But I'm going to crop it again just a little bit more. We'll see right about here. Okay, yeah, right about there. All right, good. That's much better. That's much better. All right. And I'm so sorry, guys. I know it's the perfectionist in me. There we go. There. Now, look how much we cropped it. If I were to export this, it's 1257 by 1005, and I'll show you later how you can use a calculation of 300 pixels per inch times the height times 300 pixels per inch times the width divided by 1,000,000, and that'll tell you the size of this file that we need. Excuse me, the size of the file we need to actually print it, or what size we can actually print it at. All right? So I have this set. Now, what I did was I came over to the looks, and let's try lifestyle. And all I do is I went through, and I want to pick one that's just a starting point. Let's see, essentials. You know what? I like soft and airy. We could try that one. Okay. Excuse me. I do like that. Here's before. Here's after. Okay. You know what? Let's go with this. However, I am so sorry. That crop is kind of bothering me still. So I'm going to move it over just a little bit and back. There we go. That's much better. All right. All right. So let's see what that look did. It added the light tool, color, and detail enhancer. This is a great way for you to learn what each of these tools are doing. And if you notice, they're highlighted off to the side. That means that those tools were used to create this look. Here, I'm assuming it was Mystical. Yes. And watch this. Mystical does a great job. Look at that. I love the glow effect it's having. And smoothness, that looks really good. If I don't want that effect right on the center of it, I could come down to the edit mask, radial, and then just draw it right in here. And that's where this area is not going to have the mystical effect. Everywhere else on the scene will. Let's see how that looks. Okay. And keep in mind, each tool has your toggle switch. Good, I like that. In fact, yep, I like it. I like it. That looks good. So we have mystical set. Now, when I come back up here, let's see what we did with light. Sure enough, with light, and this is traditional, you bring back, excuse me, some of the highlights. And I like to enrich the blacks a little. Not too much, right about here. And then bump up the whites. There we go. Good, I like that. Now let's see what color did. All right, so color, interesting. I typically like to do the opposite. I like to desaturate, but I like this better for this image. I typically desaturate a bit and then bring out the vibrancy here for the muted colors. For this look, I actually like the saturation. It looks airier. It just looks, well, that's why I got its name from that look. I like the airy feel that it's given me. And then for detail enhancer, here's where they used detail enhancer into a negative. What I mean by that is it made everything soft and smooth by giving it negative values. So what we're going to do is let's go back to that mystical and that edit mask. What I want to do is come into the brush or to the mask, and I'm going to reset it. There we go. So now the mask is empty, and I'll show you why I did that. Because with Detail Enhancer, since we went in and made everything around it soft, I want this centerpiece to be sharper. Here's where I'll add that radio mask, just in the center. There we go. Before, after, and typically we want to do this at 100%. There we go. Before and after, and it's just a touch of smoothing, of a softness to it. And because I shot this with a Nikon D200 at 900 ISO, there is some noise. So I'm just going to come in here and bring down the noise a little bit. Good. And while I'm at it, AI Enhancer, let's see what it thinks. Ooh, look at that. I'm going to go right about here. Good. So let's see what we have. Before, after. All right, now if this here is bothering you, which it is for me, some of the other episodes that I showed you, what we could do, in fact, before we go any further, I'm going to save this new look. And this look could be called macro. All right, and speaking of macro, let me show you this. This was taken with a macro lens with that Fuji camera that Fuji loaned me. It was raining one night, or raining one day. I went outside, and in the middle of the rain, I just snapped, a dozen or two of these images, and there we have a beautiful macro shot, and you can let it process, and you can actually see. Is it processing? Yep, there it goes. Look at that, and you can see the water droplets. I mean, how cool! Look at that. So that's what the macro was able to do. With this here, again, we're kind of fudging the macro. We're using the crop tool to make it appear that it was a macro and let it process. So once it's done processing, now we have a choice to do. If you notice down here, if that's bothering you, I showed you before, is where we can create a stamp layer. And once we create the stamp layer, what I can do is do layer transform. Let's see. We can flip it. And then maybe flip it upside down. Yeah, let's flip it here. All right, and we're going to use some of this color here. Or do we want yellow? Let's see. We either do the yellow. Oop, wrong one. There we go. Let's use yellow. All right. So all we're really doing here now is we're gonna come in with that edit mask, and I want to paint down here, and I just want to paint in that effect that we just did, or the pieces of this here. Here we go. So if that color were bothering us, we could do this. Now, after looking at it, let's do layer transform again. Instead of that color, there we go, let's try this. Let's see what that does. So, but that, like I said, is just a way for us to, oh, there we go. That's just a way for us to come in here, and if we don't like that little area that we did, I could do that to get rid of it. And of course I would go in and do a little bit more, or let me do this with it. Let me hide this layer. Or we can come in here with the erase tool. And let's see what erase will do. So right now, we already finished what we wanted. I'm sorry. There we go. We already got the image looking the way we want. And now we can just go in and finesse it. And let's see if this will help. If not, yeah, see, that's not going to do what I wanted to do. So what I would do is I would end up taking more time. And let me go down here and just copy from different pieces of the image itself. I definitely want to get rid of that. So whether it's through a crop or by maybe bringing this flower over a little bit more, that's entirely up to us on what we can do. And it's just a different way of adding to this. But the point I'm getting at is at some point, I had to have looked at this overall image in this marketplace and thought, that's going to make kind of a good shot. So by experimenting with the crop tool, we're able to make it look like it was a macro shot, and it gave us more choices. All right? So I hope that helps with the difference between macro photography and close-up photography and how to pull images from other images, or pull an image from another image inside of a photograph. All right? Now, keep in mind, tomorrow on Wednesday, every Wednesday at 5:30 Eastern time, we'll be doing an after-hours Luminar break, or after-hours party, or chat party. The information will be in the comments below. So if you're interested, we're going to add that right at the end of the broadcast. You're welcome to sign up for it. It's free of charge. And instead of us sitting here asking questions where there's a delay in timing, we're able to ask questions in real time. And a lot of these tutorials you're seeing are the results of people talking, one-on-one and asking for suggestions, and we can supply them for you. All right? Well, guys, if you like this, please give it a thumbs up and make sure you leave a comment below, and we'll see you at the next coffee break.